Oh, okay.
I will go ahead and call this meeting to order. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to today's meeting. We will begin with a roll call, beginning down there to my left.
Ryan Haney here.
Leslie Nesmith here.
Erin Engelke here.
June Elkins Baker present.
Great. We will stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Great. Notice of today's meeting was properly posted on April the 10th. So we will move right in. We do have, let's see, where is the public comment portion? Did I miss? Oh, it's at the bottom. Okay.
Oh, this is public comment?
Is that okay? Can we do it that way? Yeah. Yes, please.
Thank
Come
you
on
all.
forward. Good morning, Timothy.
Timothy Tardibono with the Oklahoma County Criminal Justice Advisory Council. I wanted to bring you all two pieces of information. I probably should have reached out to you and Chris to get on the agenda, but I thought I had time. So if I can approach.
Sure.
Thank you.
You've seen our chart, so this is, we get asked a lot how everyone fits into the puzzle. And so we tried to make that work with this. And so you all are right there at the top right, but then you can see how the jail trust fits in, how the commissioners fit in. Across the bottom, we have the new oversight board related to the building of the detention center, and then just the other parts of law enforcement, district attorney, the judges, the community, the diversion program. So it's just a little bit of a snapshot so you can get a sense of where everyone is. And if you ever wonder, like, where does this player fit in or that player fit in? And then if I can approach again.
Thank you.
This is just our mid-year report. So as CJAC, we have to give quarterly reports and mid-year and a final report. So this is really the report covering the second quarter, but we just called it a mid-year report. And there's just various issues in there that you all will probably be interested in related to the new oversight board for the new jail's been appointed. The number of women in jail is declining a little bit. Detention centers fast track handled over 450 people in the last 6 months, which are directly related to the number of people that aren't sitting in jail because they're going through this fast track program. And then the very last page, page 8, gives you sort of a historical feel of the jail population and how it was, 20 years ago, 25 years ago, when the numbers were over 2,000, pretty much for a whole decade and a half. And so recently, because of the various work of programs, we've been able to, drug court remerge, we've been able to get that number down under 1,700 regularly. So I'm happy to answer questions in the future or happy to come back. And I just want to just thank you all for your work. The other day I was sitting in the jail trust meeting and there was all sorts of flair going on. But what struck me was Ms. Royce, Aaron, Chris, you all were there giving your report, and really struck me there's two ways to do advocacy. One is to yell and scream and to talk a lot, and then the other way is to actually do the work and to be involved with staff, with residents, making policy changes, making recommendations to the trust for changes. And so I really want to thank you all for doing the real work of advocacy and not the pony work of advocacy. So thank you all. And again, I'm happy in the future if you guys want to schedule me our next report's coming out this month, the third quarter. So I'm happy to come back in May and give you all an update on what we talked about in that. But thank you all.
Wonderful.
I want to
so
thank
much.
you for coming. This is very insightful. Thank you so much.
Well, and it was I've realized that I should probably make a regular habit of bringing you all the reports after they get done each quarter. And it just had not been anything. And as I sat in that meeting, I saw you all and I thought, I really need to, first of all, show my appreciation, but then make sure you all are getting in the loop as we're putting information out. And then the other thing is to remember, like, we are a research arm. So there's data available out of Jail Tracker. Obviously, Brandi can get you all that as well. But we're happy to look at particular data questions to see, is it possible to answer them? Or maybe we need to ask a different question to answer that. So we also want to be a resource to you all. And so I just wanted to start this.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I personally think it would be beneficial for us to add you to the agenda, even, on a quarterly basis, as you remarked, with giving an overview and maybe a more thorough overview of the reports. I think that would be very helpful for all of us. Any other comments or thoughts? All right. Thank you so much, Timothy. Appreciate it. Okay, let's look back at our agenda, and we need to go ahead and approve the meeting minutes of the March 8th Citizens Advisory Board meeting. Can I get a motion in a second? Thank you. With that, the minutes have been approved. Great. Now we will move forward with our monthly report, and from it says something very interesting on the agendas. That's why I stumbled. Our monthly report from Director Brandi Garner. Brandi.
Good morning. How are y'all?
Good.
Good. Just going to cover, it's basically the same presentation that I gave during the trust meeting. I'm going to try to go a little bit faster on it, but feel free to stop me if you have questions, comments, concerns, anything that you want me to expound upon. I'm happy to do so. First and foremost, I did want to just note that we did have an in-custody death over the weekend. It is under investigation. I'm not able to really say a whole lot at this time, other than we are looking at it from all different angles. And when we determine if and who is responsible, we're looking at criminal charges on those individuals as well, if there's anyone to be found. So a few things that I'm going to cover. I'm going to cover the grand jury report, the budget, medical OR, bond releases, our admission statistics, and our new mission, vision, and values. A couple weeks ago, about 2 weeks ago, I had the opportunity to visit 2 jails in Massachusetts, Middlesex County and Hampton County. This was funded through the National Institute of Corrections. It was a wonderful experience. I met with large jail directors, administrators, chief deputies from across the nation, and it was really great to see all of the struggles that they have in their roles. We have a lot of commonalities. It's not something that's unique to Oklahoma County. It was very interesting to hear that they too are facing, an influx of contraband, and they're finding very sneaky ways to get it in, and also they're having staffing issues, a number of the same issues that we're having. So just kind of want to point that out, that the issues that you hear about that we have in our county are not unique to our county. I mean, it's nationwide. These two counties happen to be listed as model correctional facilities for the National Institute of Corrections. They have some of the lowest recidivism rates in the country, and it was amazing to see. They have the philosophy that reentry starts at day one, and everybody is expected to get up and be productive during their day and work, and they try to provide them the skills that are necessary. They have tons of programs. Of course, they also have a lot of financial resources because they're set up a little bit differently in Massachusetts. But overall, it was a great experience, and I am very much looking forward to taking some of what I learned there and implementing it over here. In fact, one of the things that I'm implementing is we're calling it the CARE program, and this is something that I didn't cover in the trust meeting, but it's basically an outreach group for the families and friends of people that are incarcerated, so they have a point of connection. So if they do have concerns, questions, comments, anything that's going on with the people that we have in our care, we can work quickly to address them, and hopefully that'll be just one more way of building up our community relations.
Awesome.
So this is going to take up the bulk of it, I'm sure. I want to cover the grand jury report. That is no secret to anyone at this point. Let me move this up a little bit. A couple of things that I want to talk about is the State Health Department report. We also are aware, there's multiple deficiencies that are listed in those reports that the grand jury kind of went into detail about. I just want to reiterate that I'm committed to working with the State Health Department. I want to make sure that we are working with them to, make the facility better for the people that we have in our care. We're going to continue to make improvements for the health and safety of the people in our care. We have restructured our organization, and we're still looking at doing a little bit more reorganization just to make more efficient use of the people that we do have, and to ensure that some of those critical things that were on the health department are being taken care of. We've revamped our quality assurance unit, and we've put more people in place. We've also started looking at checklists that they have to go through daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, annually, to ensure that those items that are continually listed, that are not related to a big expenditure for the facility as far as maintenance goes, right? Because it's a failing facility, to make sure that we are addressing those needs. As you will hear me mention several times in this report, some of the deficiency, they're going to be related to staffing, and we are diligently working to try to improve our numbers, but it's very difficult right now. We are not paying what we should be paying. They can go and work somewhere else in a similar, career field and make a lot more money and not have to deal with this much risk. So the medical initiatives that we have, we started doing the comprehensive medical intake last year. When I started working at the jail, I think I've talked to many of you about this. The medical intake screening was just like 7 questions, and it wasn't very comprehensive. They were not getting medical intake, like the full screening, until hours, sometimes days later, and that puts our population at risk. It does not help with the continuity of medications, and overall, it was just poor practice. So that's one of the first things that I changed when I came over, and then we've just continued to build on that. We've started doing the brief jail mental health screen, which is a validated screening tool. It helps us assess whether somebody might have a mental illness. Also added the CAGE aid, which is a substance use disorder, alcohol use disorder screening tool. It doesn't tell us whether they have that, but it gives us a clue as to whether or not they may have that going on. And it also, at the bottom of it, it asks them a question, if you were to be provided resources, are you willing to accept them? In the future, we'll be using these in a little bit better way. Right now, it's just kind of data collection and trying to gather all the information so we know the prevalence of these issues. I think we all can kind of assume that they're pretty high, but having that data would help us be more not only informed, but it would also help us maybe look at grants to fund different programs and working with our community partners. Turnkey has also created a new document that lists the fit for incarceration guidelines. They are a little bit more stringent. And there's also a new medical clearance form that officers, when they bring somebody in, if they are being sent back out to the hospital, they have to take this form with them and have the provider fill it out. It gives us more information on what actions were actually taken by that physician. This is just to try to prevent the number of times that we send somebody out and they come back and they've got just a signature saying they're okay. We want to make sure that the people were treated for what we saw when they were in our intake screening room. One of the other things, I'll go back here. One of the other things that I'm looking at bringing here, and I know that there may be opioid funding money for this, so that's going to be a really good thing, is medication-assisted treatment. They had a great program in Middlesex County, and I'm looking to model it after that. I know Turnkey is very much on board with getting that started as well. I'm hoping that it'll reduce the number of overdoses post-release, because people are most at risk of having a deadly overdose once they're released from our jail. And overall, just speak to the recovery that we need to be focused on while they're in our custody. Our medical OR program is still moving ahead. We did just begin working with Judge Bondurant, the district attorney, public defenders, and some others on the court-ordered outpatient treatment program, which is, they're calling it COOP. The program was initiated by Judge Bondurant, and it allows referrals of people in our care to be screened by the DA and public defender for eligibility of the program. From there, we utilize the tablets that were provided from the Department of Mental Health to get them a comprehensive screening, and then a decision is made with the potential to have the criminal charges even dropped against a person and put them into inpatient or outpatient care. This is great. I see emails coming through all the time about this person's approved for release, take them here, do this. It's amazing to see how it works, and this is only the first month, so I can only imagine how this program is going to benefit the county long term. So part of the grand jury report addressed that we were not doing comprehensive background checks and that we had hired criminal gang members. As somebody that's like, I'm in law enforcement, right? That's very concerning to me. And so as soon as I became aware that that was a problem, I have ordered everybody to undergo thorough background. All of our current employees they're going through that process right now, and anybody moving forward will be going through that process. As a result of that, we have had to terminate or allow some people to resign, but it's in the interest of the best interest of our agency and the population that we serve. As I mentioned before, every new hire in any vendor, they will be subject to those background checks. And I want to ensure that we are hiring people with integrity, strong moral code, and a strong ethical obligation. To fight against the introduction of contraband, we continue to utilize the random searches at entry of the facility. All persons entering the facility during these times are subjected to search, and that includes our trust members. And I think they will tell you that they have recently undergone full searches. Ideally, I would like to have that area staffed 24/7, but with current staffing crisis that I'm in, I don't have the ability to do that. So we're relegated to having to do the random searches. Hopefully that'll change in the future. I will continue to push for pay increases in our budget discussions. And I did mention this, and I just want to reemphasize this. We are the largest county in the state, and we do have the most dangerous people in our state. In the worst physical plant that I have ever seen. It is very difficult to recruit the very best when we are paying just minimum of what they should be making. And that's comparative to anybody in the nation, not just this state. The low pay also makes our staff susceptible to corruption. Our inmate population, they're connected, and they do have the funds to pay quite a bit more than what we would in a month just for drugs or cell phones or weapons. So it's really important that I push for these pay increases. Every time I get a chance, I'm going to start talking about that because I think it's important. We should be paying more than any other facility in the state. It's difficult to compete when they can earn more money for less dangerous work in a facility that actually makes the job easier and more efficient for them. It was mentioned in the report that we should offer signing bonuses. We did try that for a time. It didn't work. I believe during the 2 years or year and a half that they were doing that, I think we maybe had one employee that was paid out. So that's not what it is. They need a sustainable wage. That's really what it is. I have a lot of single mothers that are trying to make ends meet and paying for daycare. As y'all probably know, it's very expensive. It's almost to the point where they're just working to pay for daycare. In an effort to recruit people who do have a law enforcement mindset, we have partnered with a couple of law enforcement agencies. If they have people that come through that aren't quite ready to be police officers, they're sending them our way, and then we're going to try to get them and grow them into police officers. So maybe we'll have them for a couple of years until they're ready. I'm looking to kind of grow that relationship a little bit, so maybe they can come in and mentor them. The police agencies can come in and mentor them for a little bit until the time is right for them to reapply. Regarding our criminal investigations unit, I'm always looking for ways to improve. They are going to do more training, which our Chief Deputy Paul Timmons has reached out to OSBI and some of the other state agencies to help facilitate that training. All deaths they're going to be investigated as homicides, including the previous one, like I mentioned, that happened over this weekend. Overdoses, we will be working with our outside partners to try to find where that drug came from, and if we can find where the drug came from, then we will charge somebody with homicide. That's something that was recommended in the grand jury report, and that's absolutely something that we're looking forward to making happen to ensure that we can get a handle on the fentanyl situation. We have had random searches also using drug dogs from the Oklahoma Department of Corrections. That is a partnership that we have really built, and we plan on continuing that until we are able to possibly get our own drug dog team. Chief of Investigations is also doing an evidence audit, just making sure that all of the evidence is accounted for and that it's been handled properly. We're also going to conduct training for not only our investigative division, but the detention officers to make sure that when they come across something or if they're involved in a crime scene, that they know how to properly handle that evidence so it doesn't end up getting thrown out later on. There is an allegation of obstruction, and I just need to let y'all know that that person has been placed on paid leave pending the outcome of that investigation. It has been turned over to the OSBI. Our mailroom, I'll go back. Mailroom, during the restructuring, we put that under the investigative unit because they're the ones that are dealing with the things that are coming in through the mail. And so they can provide more oversight and training, guidance, all of that. It just made more sense to do that. And hopefully in the future, we'll actually be able to move to a mail scanning service. That's something that I plan on putting out for bid here in the near future. And Again, anytime I get a chance, I'm going to just kind of reiterate that any outside law enforcement agency that wanted to partner with us, I know there were allegations that had happened in the grand jury report. I have no knowledge of that, but moving forward, anybody that wants to work with us as in law enforcement, I'm very open to that. I think that is only going to make us better, and we could certainly use all the help we can get. This is going to be just a little bit outdated. It's my understanding that some funding was approved on Monday during the BOCC. We were facing a $1.6 million deficit. $1.1 million of that is the ARPA funding. We had already, the reimbursements that we're waiting on. And I just want to point out that I'm including that because even though it's promised to us, we know that we're supposed to be getting it. I cannot be certain that it's going to happen in this fiscal year. Then, let's see. The city boarding contract, that has been brought up as well. We are currently working with the city. It's in negotiations. I thought we had made some headway, but there were a few things that some of the trust members wanted to meet with the city manager and the chief of police about. We're working to try to schedule that meeting and try to get it done before the next trust meeting. So we did have 7 new employees that began the Detention Officer Academy March 27th. So in March, we had 22 people that applied for employment. 18 were invited to interview, 9 were interviewed, and then 7 offers were extended. That seems to be pretty normal. We'll get a large number of people that are applying. We'll review them, we'll invite them to interview, and then only maybe half of them will show up. And then of those, you may have just a handful of people that are actually qualified and ready to work in this line of work. We do continue to work on recruiting. We've gone to a couple of events. In fact, they're at an event at OCCC right now. Yesterday, they went to Rose State to a veterans hiring event. That one was not as productive as we had hoped, but we did make some connections with some of the veterans coordinators and gave them our information, so hopefully they can start sending people our way. Prior to that, we went to UCO and we did a Women in Criminal Justice recruiting event. We were invited. Go to the next one. We were only one of 7 agencies that were invited, and we did have a few people that were interested, but again, it's hard to get people to be interested in this line of work, especially when you see the pay. But I digress. The medical OR bonds, I've explained these before. I'm pretty sure y'all understand what we're doing here. It's just when people are very ill and they have they have charges that are probably not a danger to the community, like you're talking low-level offenses, and then they have a significant medical problem. We're submitting them. We're actually submitting all of them, but those are the ones that are most likely to get approved. We are submitting them to see if we can get them out of custody. We've worked with some of our community partners. Team has been amazing at helping us get these people connected to services. And when they're granted, then they're able to continue their medical treatment outside the facility and move forward with trying to get back to being healthy. In the month of March, we had 57 that we had identified. We requested 49, 9 were granted, 2 were denied. We have 5 people that are awaiting mental health evaluation, and all of the remaining are pending. That number is probably a little bit higher now. I haven't pulled the report today to see exactly where we're at. The other thing that I want to point out is, yes, we identified 57 people, and we only requested 49. The other people that we didn't request them for were already released, or they had an out-of-county hold that we knew that they were going to get transported within 24, 48 hours. These are just a few of the cases that we are concerned about. We have case number 1. He's a middle-aged male, and he has significant medical history of hypertension, diabetes, prior stroke, hyperlipidemia, and stage 3 kidney disease. He's had fasting blood sugars over 1,000 when normal range is 80 to 120. He is not compliant with his medications, and he's at very high risk of heart attack, stroke, renal failure, blindness, nerve injury, and death. Case number 2 is an elderly, frail male. He is over the age of 70, but he does have a significant medical history of heart attack and previous placement of multiple stents. He is not compliant with the required blood thinners to prevent clots from forming in stents, and as you know, we cannot force medicate, correct? He has multiple episodes of chest pain each week. He has diabetes, and he has stage 3 kidney disease. He is refusing blood sugar checks. It should also be noted that he is a veteran and he has PTSD. He He's also a fall risk with an increased risk of decompensation due to his age and physical state. He does have significant charges with a hold in another county for similar charges. And so that request has been denied. He's only been in custody for about 3 months, and his case may prolong his court proceedings because they are of such a serious nature. This is one that I'm very concerned he is going to die with not care. And given his charges, I understand that he is a risk to the community. And so I wish more people understood these are the people that we're dealing with. And sometimes the only place that they can be is in jail. Case number 3 is a middle-aged male. He has small lymphoma B-cell chronic lymphocytic leukemia. That's a type of blood cancer, and it doesn't initially require treatment, but he has advanced to chemotherapy. He is on oral chemotherapy, and the medication cost is $13,000 per month, and that's just one patient out of the 1,500 that we normally have. The effects of chemotherapy can compromise the immune system, leaving him vulnerable to supplemental and unnecessary infections. He has been in custody for over 3 months, and he has a very high bond. He's a repeat offender, and as expected, his request was denied. Having that depleted immune system and being in an incarcerated environment is not healthy, and we know that. We're doing everything we can to care for him, but he is at a risk of declining while he's in custody. Just some statistics for the month of March. 2,203 people were released in March. 2,143 were booked for an average of 64 people being booked in per day. This is kind of in line with what we're seeing every month. We did see an average of 1,528 for the month, and that is actually down 125 detainees from what we saw in March of 2022, where it was 1,676. Our population is still hovering around 1,450. There was a point about 2 weeks ago over the weekend, it dropped below 1,400, and that was amazing. Our male population does make up by 87% of our population. Females are only 13%. If you look at the charge types, we've broken it down where you have detainees that have drug charges, manslaughter charges, homicide charges, and then sexual charges. These are just some, interesting statistics, so you kind of know what the population makeup is and what we're holding people for. Currently, there are 67 detainees that are facing aggravated drug charges with an average stay of 169 days. For manslaughter, we have 18 of those people in custody and 134 people in custody with homicide charges. So when I say that we're dealing with some of the most dangerous people in our state, I really mean that. The average stay
Can I ask
for...
a question?
Yeah.
Why is there no orange line for homicide? Or for manslaughter, rather, sorry.
That I don't know. I can get that information for you, though. It might have been overlooked. Well, it's the average stay for both charges is 415. I think that they were aggregated together. We currently have 8 detainees on murder charges who have been in jail for more than 1,000 days, and 2 who have been in jail for over 2,000 days. There's also 172 detainees that are facing charges of a sexual nature, and the average days in jail for that population is 234. This isn't going to be a true recidivism rate. It's just interesting to look and see that 363 people that were booked in March had more than 2 bookings in the last 5 years. 799 of our intakes, they had no bookings in the last 5 years. And then the education component, I'm going to dive a little bit deeper in this as time goes on because I think it's important to look and see what our needs are, the population needs. And of course, this is also self-reporting, and so some of them may have just declined to answer any questions. But it was interesting to see that only 272 of the people that were booked in March admitted that they had a GED or a high school diploma, compared to 1,149 stated that they did not have a high school diploma or an equivalent. Our mission, vision, and values. This is something that I found it's absolutely necessary to do. We needed to update it. We needed it to be concise. We needed them to have buy-in, and therefore we polled our staff and had them submit all of their ideas as to what our new mission, vision, and values should be. And so in the coming slides, this is what they came up with. And I think it's pretty amazing that they came up with what they did. Our mission statement: we are here to exhibit professionalism, courtesy, ethical conduct, and moral standards to Oklahoma County and the state of Oklahoma. Our vision is to strive to provide a safe and secure detention facility that cultivates a positive and empathic culture, provide transparent and accountable service, and positively impact the lives of all individuals. And these are our new values. And I'm not going to go into the, obviously you know what each one of them means, but we have outlined each word to kind of give our expectation of what that means to be professional, to exhibit respect, accountability, integrity, service, empowerment. I also like that it was kind of an acronym, so it makes it easier for them to recall. We will start challenging our staff randomly, just walking through the hall. Hey, what's our mission statement? What's our values? Give me three of our values. We're going to continue to put up artifacts throughout the jail, so it's constant reminder. We'll hold people accountable to them. We'll also give out awards for people exhibiting one of our values or all of our values. We have big plans for that just moving forward, just to try to get everyone on the same sheet of music. We did start our trauma-informed response training. We have 4 more classes that are coming throughout the year. Everybody has been mandated to go through this training. It's going to be very helpful to our staff in making it safer for everyone. There's a whole lot of stuff on my page, but what it comes down to is it's important to me that they understand how to interact with people that have experienced trauma in their life. They can very easily exacerbate existing trauma. They can very easily create new trauma, and I need them to understand that. And I want them to move forward in their jobs with that understanding and maybe conduct themselves in a little bit different manner. It may be something that's standard for detention work. I gave the example of yelling. You enter a pod and you're trying to announce, hey, it's time for trays. That's pretty standard in any jail, but when you do that, you can, you have startle response. The sound of the door slamming, all of this is traumatic for people, and it can make it worse. And so I felt like this training is really important, and it'll make it safer for them too, because they're not triggering those coping mechanisms that can be difficult to manage.
Can I ask a question on that? I'm sorry.
Sure.
Because one of the things we do know that there is undiagnosed trauma in probably all of us. So in your training that you're going to do, what are you going to do that's going to be specific for those? This is just a thought, nothing that you have to answer. That's specific to those that may be re-traumatized, not even having understood that there has been a traumatic event. That's just a thought, because that's going to happen.
Yeah.
Because individuals, we stuff it, we dress it up, and we keep it moving. And we do. Yeah. And so that's just a thought, because that may not only for the detainees, but also for the staff. That's just kind of
absolutely
think about that.
Absolutely. The Mental Health Association is the one that's putting on this training, and that's something that they also address. A lot of people have reported after going through this that some of it is hard to go through. And they're provided resources. The county has great resources when it comes to that. But the Mental Health Association provides resources. We have peer support that we're trying to bolster within our facility. And but you're absolutely right. Yeah, they said it was pretty tough going through. Yeah. But on the other hand, I think it makes it relatable, and so maybe they will have a more empathic approach to what they're doing, and have that understanding that when they see somebody in a current, whatever state they're in, they ask themselves whether or not this is related to maybe some unresolved trauma versus this person is just disobeying a direct order. Right? So it does require a little bit more patience, but it also ties into de-escalation as well, and that's important. So we did promote A couple of people, Captain Adebola Atoki, Captain Bridget Tate, Staff Sergeant Christopher Milner, Staff Sergeant Gavin Holloway, and Sergeant Deborah Walker. The 2 captain positions were key. I was down 2 captains for a while, and they're our command staff. And so when we went through the restructuring and the reorganization, we shook things up a little bit. But I think it's good to have fresh eyes on an old problem, and so far they're doing amazing. They've been, both of the captains, they have been there for many, many years. And I loved their willingness and openness to try new things and to be accepting of change. They definitely have a growth mindset, and that is absolutely necessary if we're going to make any headway in the changes that we're trying to implement. And that's all I have. Do y'all have any questions for me?
I do.
Okay.
Okay. Do you know how many law enforcement agencies utilize the jail?
17.
17. Do we keep track of how many? I guess I'm trying to think of the way to say it. How many detainees are from each law enforcement agency?
I know that we can pull that data if we needed it. I think he's not here anymore, but I think CJAC is also tracking that data as well.
Okay. Is there any? Because I'm sympathetic to the idea that you guys need more funding to be competitive in the labor market.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm wondering if there's any accountability put on the various law enforcement agencies, that aren't county agencies but are utilizing a county resource. Does that make sense? I mean,
certainly.
Are they contributing on sort of like a pro rata basis, or are those contracts like flat fees? Do you know what those look like?
It just depends on the contract itself. Oklahoma City obviously is our highest utilizer.
Sure.
And because it's under negotiations, I can't really speak to what they're doing right now. But it just varies based on the agency. We have some agencies where they may be bringing in 1 a month. So
sure.
Yeah.
And finally, have you put together a number that you've asked the trust for, as far as like to be competitive in the labor market and hopefully to get fully staffed? This is what we need. And if so, what is that number?
Ideally, and I mentioned this in the trust meeting on Monday as well, so it's not any secret. Ideally, I'd like to start our people out at 45,000, and I think that's a very conservative ask. When I went for our budget presentation, I was really only asking for an 8.5% increase, which was equivalent to the COLA that was given to the county. But eventually, I would like to get at least to $45,000 with the ability to, of course, after a year, increase it to potentially $50,000.
Thanks.
And I still don't think that's competitive enough, if you're asking me. Yeah.
Okay, I just have a couple of questions. So as a business owner, I understand the need, staffing, you have to have people to do everything. Do you have any idea if we're taking advantage of the Work Opportunity Tax Credit, or the WOTC, which is a federal tax credit for certain individuals who fall into certain categories? It's very substantial. So I'm just wondering if we're taking advantage of that. The HR department may say, of course we are, but they may say, holy cow, we're not doing that. And that's a lot of money.
So that would be a question for my HR. To my knowledge, I don't have any knowledge of that, but it's definitely something I'll pitch to her and see if it's something that we're currently doing. And if not, how do we get started?
Yes, and if you look at that, there are certain individuals who qualify for that in certain areas, depending on just certain lifestyle history, things like that. Veterans, people who have been previously incarcerated, they qualify for that 100% of the time within their first year of employment in almost every case.
Okay.
So it is very substantial. And in my past lives, the companies I've worked for literally saved millions of dollars a year.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
In that.
That's
So
the first question
something to look at
when I get back.
So it's commonly called the WOTC.
Okay.
the next, this isn't really a question, this is more of a statement. You said that you talked to a veterans group as far as staffing. You'd mentioned maybe a job fair where you talked to some veterans organizations. One of the things that I've brought up in the past is there's multiple programs for people who are either retiring or leaving the military early. All branches of service have this. I know back when I lived in Texas, the Texas jail system, they used that process to find their people. I actually had a family member who worked in the jail who was recruited through that process when they left the military. So I really feel like that's something that we should explore. My company several years ago, we were on that list as a preferred employer. And literally people would just say, they'd call us up and say, hey, I'm getting out of the Army. I was given your name and, do you have anything for me?
Yeah.
So they come to you in that case. So you're not actually having to actively recruit them. So just a thought, there are some programs out there like that I think we should take advantage of.
I did pass that information along to Mark.
Okay.
I will remind him of that. And we, when I was at my other employer, we actually tried that and we didn't have a lot of interest. And I think some of it is because what I have found is other states view corrections work as it's different. There's a different, I don't know how to explain it. I don't know how to put my finger on it. Going up to Massachusetts, it was very clear. Like there's a lot of pride and professionalism, and as much as we're trying to increase that, we're having to overcome a huge stigma. But to your point, yes, I will follow up on that.
Thank you.
Good. Amazing. I thank you so much for this report. I want to ask a series of questions and then make a comment. Are we I appreciate so much the demographics of tracking, male and female. Are we also tracking race and ethnicity?
There's a way to pull a report for that. Yes.
It would be, I would love it if we could kind of see that just maybe moving forward, or if it's, I don't know how to obtain that information, but I would be very curious. I've heard reports, but I don't want to, I'd rather rely on you and your staff to tell us what's really going on in the breakdown of race and ethnicity among those who are being processed in the jail. And then I'm just curious, would it be reasonable to assume that the reason a person who is deemed to be a threat to the community or a flight for risk on some of the charges that you identified, murder and some sexual charges and some of those types of things, is it reasonable to assume that they're staying in the jail for, as long as they are because of continuances in their cases? Or is there a reason that seems
that would
excessive?
Really be it would be a question for the courts. That would be my assumption. But every case is unique, and I don't want to speak to that too much because I don't know for sure. But
I thank you for that. And then I just want a clarification, and I'm also intrigued, and I think I'm following your thought processes in this, but when you present the statistics, and again, self-reporting, that 272 individuals have reported having a high school diploma or equivalent GED. Is that 272 out of like 1,500 plus?
that was just for the intakes in March. So
Okay.
the people that were being brought in, that's not our actual in
I got it.
custody right now.
Got it. Okay.
Ideally, in the future, I'll be able to get a little bit better information of our population because, we do have people that have been there for a long time.
Gotcha. One of the things that I don't know what their official title is. Trustee, Stephen Buck, who's now on the jail trust, had asked that we add to our list of questioning in our focus groups when you allow us to go in and talk directly to the men and women.
Yes.
At the detention center is access, what kind of access do they have to spiritual support of their choice, of their faith? And so we asked that question last week, and the response that we received back, and it was positive. I mean, they said that they are given access, but the majority of clergy or spiritual leaders available to them would either come from the Catholic tradition or the Protestant faith. And I'm just curious, is there access available to Muslims or people of different faiths, all faiths?
There is. We don't deny access. I think, we have the OJPM that comes in, the Oklahoma Jail and Prison Ministries. It may be that they are just predominantly staffed with people of those faiths, but if somebody has a need or a request, they can tell us, hey, I'm Muslim. I would like to have an imam, or we did meet with, I cannot remember her name right now, but she's known throughout the state as being kind of a mentor, and she is allowed to come in and talk to them if they need somebody to talk to. I'm open to those conversations. They just need to reach out and try to make that connection. And if OJPM is meeting with people and they say, I'm not interested, I'm Muslim, whatever the case may be, then they should be reaching out as well to all of the different faith leaders to try to make those connections.
Correct. So there is a process in place.
There is.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. And then I just have a question. Thinking through in my experience of having the opportunity to work with men and women who are impacted by the criminal legal system, and this may be a little bit more on the Department of Corrections side of things, there are days, events that are particularly difficult for the population who may be separated from family. One of those events is Mother's Day. Mm-hmm. That's coming up. That's not always a pleasant holiday for everyone. And I'm just curious, are there efforts in place to think through that and try to be aware? I know that we have some phenomenal programming that's now available through Calm Waters that kind of can help support and process through those difficult times. But those kind of special moments, I'm just curious, are there thoughts, ideas on how to maybe mitigate some of that trauma of being separated from family members?
Yeah, I have a lot of thoughts on those types of occasions, and you're actually just a little ahead of me because it's on my list of things I need to follow up on.
I'm sorry.
With our programs. But I did want to see what we had planned, if there was any. A lot of times we will have groups that come in and they will spend time with the population that the holiday affects. Especially when it comes to like Christmas. We know that there is an uptick of people that have suicidal ideations, and that this is certainly no different. Moving forward, there's a lot of ideas I have. Some of it is going to be related to just finding the staff to do them. I would love to implement a child visitation program where they're having in-person contact with their children and working with DHS to make that happen and giving them parenting classes and the skills that they need to try to help not only really reduce the trauma on the child, right? Because having an incarcerated parent, that's one of the things that's on the ACEs score. We all know that. And to also kind of help them reintegrate and, be prepared to meet up with their children and be an actual parent when they are released. That's just one of my thoughts on that. I have a lot of different ideas. I would love to have all the programs in the world, but when it comes down to it, I need more staff to facilitate that. Or I need programs that are more than willing to come in and be okay with interacting with that population and maybe not having security right there next to them while the programs are going on.
So, but there's a risk involved with that as well. So.
Sure. Thank you for that. Just two more quick things. So I'm thinking about how to articulate what I'm about to say and what the appropriate setting may be. And this feels like as good a place as any to start this conversation. But I would want, particularly the Citizens Advisory Board, to know that over this past weekend, starting at about 7:30 on Good Friday p.m., 7:30 p.m. on Good Friday, continued through Saturday and even on Easter Sunday, Director Gardner was feverishly advocating for a person who is in the jail who has severe medical conditions and presumably did not pose a threat to the community to be released and connected with the proper care, even as she was making sure that her staff was providing proper medical care to this individual. That's going above and beyond. And I just want to publicly say thank you for that extra effort. I feel like it wasn't uncommon. It just happened to be that I was aware of some of the interactions that you were having with judges and with the district attorney's office and with the public defender and with the nonprofit community to try to figure out what could be done at a time where you were probably at home with your family. And I just want to say, way to go. I mean, thank you. And that doesn't go unnoticed. And I, for one, appreciate those extra efforts and just want to say thank you publicly. And then my final question is, and I don't know why I didn't think to be asking this every time we have a meeting, but what can the Citizens Advisory Board do to better support you?
Oh gosh, my
Oh,
question.
sorry.
That I may have to get back with you on that because I think that what y'all are doing so far has been very helpful. You having the focus groups and meeting with the people that are in our care is helpful for me to understand what is actually going on. When I go up there, I get one story, and of course my staff, I get another story from them, and having somebody that's independent going in and speaking with our detainees and getting what I believe is a real perspective of what they are experiencing is helpful for me. When it comes to like the employee engagement surveys, some of that we were already working on, but it was very helpful to know, like, hey, we're on the right track. These are the things that we need to be doing in order to move us forward, and this is what our employees needing. Again, I don't always hear the truth from the employees because they want to gloss over things and they don't want to be just raw and honest with me, despite how many times I've pled with them, please just tell me, like, what is it you need? So that's very helpful. There's a lot that y'all are doing already that I find very supportive, and I'm very grateful for y'all and the work that you're doing. So if there is something, I know who to call.
For sure. I will tell you this, and I need to go back and get the name of this individual. You would know it's the supervisor on the 6th floor, and I don't know A from B to C areas, but there were it was at a time when everyone was out of their pod and they were able to be in the out of their cell and into the pod. And we kind of felt like in processing with the staff that it may be better to ask within that particular pod who would like to have the conversation with us in our focus group, and to maybe move out in the hallway and we all just kind of sit in a circle in the floor to have the conversation. And it was a group of men, and as we were processing through our questions and asking about staff, your supervisor for that unit walked by and literally got fist pumps and high fives from the guys as she needed to get walk kind of through us, and just that interaction and then the affirmation of how she sees them as people is what was told to us was big time. So again, I think that's a reflection of Yes, ma'am. I
That's
think
Staff
that's
Sergeant Harrison. She's
Uh,
amazing.
she is amazing, and I appreciate that dynamic, and I truly believe it is a reflection of the leadership.
Thank you.
So thank you.
Thank you. Anything else?
Thank you so much, Brandi.
You're welcome.
Appreciate you.
I appreciate you guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. I just need a motion to accept Director Garner's report. Wonderful. And with that, 5 yeses, we will move on to the next agenda item, discussion and possible action regarding focus group discussions, which Chair Steele has already kind of touched on this a bit, but I will defer to you to provide additional comments on the focus groups that have occurred since the last meeting.
Sure. So I will send out an email with the official report on this once I'm able to substantiate and collaborate what I heard and recorded with Hannah Royce to make sure that we're not leaving out anything. But we talked to both men and women, spent about 35 to 40 minutes apiece with each group of 4 to 6 people in each cohort. The men reported that the quality of the food has improved and is good, but the portions are small, and that's something that we have heard in the past. But the food, they said, is really pretty solid. The men had asked for the opportunity when we asked them what they would like if they could change one thing, and this was a little bit surprising to me because I had not heard this before. But 4 of the 6 men said that they would like the opportunity to clean their cells, their own cells, more frequently with proper supplies. And I thought if I could only have my teenage daughter catch on. Yeah, catch on to that. It would be great. But they said that they want, they understand where they're at and why they have to be there. And the group of men that we talked to had kind of determined to make the most of it, and they wanted to keep their space clean and wanted to do their part in that, and just had asked for that. We usually ask a question in reference, do you feel safe? And the answer that we received back from the men was yes, but they would they did note that more frequent site checks for the people in the cells would be helpful. They said that the staff are stretched just because of the number of staff, and so the site checks do not always occur in their estimation or in their perception as like on when they're supposed to. Sometimes they're late, and they said it's for somebody who may be having a health issue or a mental health issue, 10, 15 minutes can make a world of difference. And so they were hoping that they were offering that constructive criticism just to make sure that the site checks themselves were more routine and on schedule. We also had, the men also said that the interaction with the staff, for the most part, is good. They had very positive things. They said, to be fair, people are people, and the interaction with some staff is better than staff with other staff, but overall that was positive. They said that they would love more access to communication with their loved ones, family, and support groups, especially for those who may be unable to afford funding to make more frequent phone calls. They did say that they get a free phone call each week, 5 minutes, but there's always issues with that. Sometimes the person that they're trying to contact is not there, or by the time they get through saying hello and how are you, it feels like that time has expired, and they just ask if they could have more time to stay connected with their support group and family members. They said that they would appreciate if they could get out of their cell more frequently. They said that they are getting out on average about 3 days a week. According to the report received, about 4 hours each day, so about 12 hours a week is what they said. We continue to hear the need for more programming. And we did talk about the need for access to more diverse spiritual support, and that just may be a matter of understanding what that process is. They said that they appreciated the conversation and do not take it for granted that their voice is being included in the community on how we can improve things. Communication is always an issue, and they said that they would love more communications, particularly in reference to where their own court case is and what's going on with their court case. They said that the food portions, again, were small, and that overall they felt like that things were headed in the right direction. Very quickly, the women that we were able to talk to noted that bed bugs are still an issue. Not as bad as they used to be, but still very, very much an issue. They reported getting out of their cells 3 to 5 days a week for 2 to 3 hours each time. They said that the staff interactions are good, positive, and moving in the right direction. There was a report that there was an interaction with some staff that made them feel uncomfortable. They didn't go into detail, but they just said it was odd, is the way that they described it. They asked for more orientation, a more comprehensive process for people who are being processed into the jail to know how the kiosks work and how the request to staff should come and the need for additional hygiene, those kind of things. They said that a better understanding of how that works coming in would be helpful rather than having to rely on others to tell them. They said that they would love more access to faith-based services. They said the food is excellent. First time we've heard that. Food is excellent. I don't know what you guys did this last month, but man, added a little spice to it or something. But they also said portions tend to be too small. They wanted more communication with their family, common themes that we're hearing. And the majority of the women said that they felt like that they were spending too much time by themselves prior to getting placed in a cell. That I guess that may be in the intake or the holding area. They said that the kiosk gives you all the information you need, but you need to know how to utilize it. Those who know how to utilize the kiosk do well, but others have no idea how to go about that or even how to take advantage of that. And they said that in a perfect world, they would like more access to vision care, which is the first time that we've heard that, and eyeglasses when a person needs eyeglasses or when their glasses break or need repaired. They said that there's really not a process that they're aware of to deal with that. And then just the appreciation for the hygiene products that they receive, but two of the females indicated that they did not have what they felt like to be adequate access to basic hygiene products and needs. So that's our report overall.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Anyone have any questions or additional thoughts for Chris? I just think these focus groups continue to be incredibly beneficial on all fronts. So thank you for continuing to take the lead on those. All right, I need a motion to accept that focus group report. Thank you. Wonderful. 5 yeses. With that, we'll move to Agenda item number 4, discussion and possible action regarding a report from the Recruitment and Retention of Staff Subcommittee. The chair of that committee, Pastor Douglas, was not able to be here this morning, so I'm happy to present that report. We are continuing to just work really, really hard on that subcommittee. In terms of updates, as many of you will recall, the employee engagement survey was the first one was initiated in November with the intent to do that every quarter or every 6 months or so. There have been some questions that have been added to that survey and sent to Director Garner and her team. I know that they're with the restructure and some reorganization, there's still dialogue about who will take the lead on initiating that second employee engagement survey, but we will be moving forward with that. Now, hopefully we'll have an additional update in the next month. In addition, we've been working very hard on identifying new opportunities to support the detention center in the recruitment of staff. And so I have been having some meetings, in particular one with OCCC, to engage them in a partnership to be able to participate, quite frankly, in recruitment events on campus. And as you heard from Director Garner, I say we, not that I had anything to do with it except forwarding an email, but the team at the detention center was able to participate in a very last minute recruiting event today. And so that was extremely exciting. I hope that that's fruitful. But either way, I'm just grateful that we're having these discussions with a lot of other partners in the community and raising awareness of the need, but also just identifying, again, these events and opportunities. So I think that's it. Chris, you're on that subcommittee as well. Is there anything else that you would have to add?
I really don't have anything else to add other than we have initiated the request, the process, which has been received favorably, to also begin having focus groups with employees as well, just to hear from them how things are going. I think we've been doing this informally with the staff who accompany us, on the focus groups as we're riding in the elevators and meeting each other and saying goodbye. We're hearing from them, but to make that process more official, just to give employees an opportunity to directly say, hey, this is what's really working well in between those surveys. So the surveys, I think, are key to everything because that gets it in writing. But in addition to that, just to create a forum on a regular basis, maybe a monthly rotation where we have a group of employees who would also just say, here's, maybe how things are going and what I think we could do to improve things, is something else that this committee has taken the lead on, which I think is just extremely important moving forward. And I'm also grateful for the opportunity to entertain this idea.
Great. Any questions from the rest of the board? Okay. I would like to move forward with a motion to accept the report from the Recruitment and Retention of Staff Subcommittee. Wonderful. 5 yeses. We'll move to agenda item number 5, discussion and possible action regarding a report from the Policy and Procedures Subcommittee. And forgive me, I don't recall who the chair is.
I think that was Mr. Buck.
That's what I was thinking too. So I'm assuming there has not been a...
No, due to quorum issues and some travel that I've had, we haven't met in several months. And so I suspect at our next meeting, if Pastor Douglas can make it, we will talk about adding a third person.
Okay, sounds good. So no report.
No report.
Okay, great. All right, agenda item number 6, discussion and possible action regarding a report from the Operations Subcommittee.
And because the Policy and Procedures Subcommittee wasn't meeting, this committee hasn't really been meeting either, because it was basically the same people. So, and frankly, I'm still a little unsure about what that subcommittee is supposed to be doing. So, nothing to report there either.
Okay. Thank you, Ryan. All right. Agenda item number 7, discussion and possible action regarding a report from the Community Relationship Subcommittee. Chair of that subcommittee, Hannah, is not with us today. I honestly was not able to attend the last meeting, so I don't have anything of significance.
Basically, what we talked about was a community survey. Were you not there?
Actually, I was not at the last meeting.
Okay,
I was
because
at the one before.
we met right after the CAB meeting, I think. We met on the 8th. But anyway, we talked about community surveys, looking at what the perceived barriers are and where they're from, the perception. And one of the things that we talked about is that folks don't reach out, don't discuss what they need because of who brings them. So it's trying to get to the grassroots of how we can actually help the community. And so we talked about who would be the target, how would we get it out there, the fact that we needed to be honest, back up, follow up, and keep folks informed. And if a person is refused treatment, can family members be made aware of that decision? Because a lot of times, you have issues, but yet and still you don't want any of the treatment that goes along with that, or family members aware so they understand what they're up against, and then to just increase audience participation.
So if I may, and I don't know if you were here for this part of it, the creation of that group, the program, the CARES program that we are doing, I think that would be instrumental in that, in trying to make sure that the families, that's what it is. We're going to reach out to the families and try to help keep them informed of, issues that they may be facing, and also to get their support so maybe they can talk to their family member and encourage them to seek treatment so they can stay as healthy as possible while they're incarcerated with us.
Okay, thank you.
Madam Chair, could I just add a quick? Yes, ma'am. No.
But the one that was after, did we have one after that? Because that was there was a special meeting. Okay.
We pulled it down because of so you're reporting on everything that needs to be reported.
Okay,
on. I don't think there's been any official action since what you've reported
No,
on.
not at all.
But just to underscore what Ms. June has reported, the other thing that was discussed in that meeting that I think is super significant is that the Community Relations Committee also discussed the opportunity or the possibility of hosting some listening sessions throughout the community, to invite the community together and say, hey, let's talk about what's going on at the Oklahoma County Detention Center. Make sure that people are aware of the improvements that are taking place and the reality of what we're seeing and hearing and feeling, and then also saying, do you have ideas? At the end of the day, I think this board has a unique opportunity so we get to hear when we hit our stride from really everyone, and then use all of that input to help guide what may be the official recommendations back to the jail trust and to our director, but just making sure that as this subcommittee fulfills that role of liaison to the community, that we're actually in the community at libraries, at churches, at community centers, wherever we can be, to really begin to organize and say, hey, let's talk about this. We want to hear from you, but we also want the community to be aware of the reality of what's happening now.
After that meeting, I felt stoked because
Yeah.
I feel like that we were. I mean, because that's where you get so much of the comments is in the community, and the community wants to know. And I think that that's going to be so important for us to be out there and to do the follow up and make sure that we're just not saying something and you never see us or hear from us again. So I'm excited.
I think it'd also be great to get more participation from the general public in these meetings as well. Whatever we can do to make people aware that these meetings even happen.
Great. Can I get a motion to accept the report from the Community Relationship Subcommittee?
I don't know what I did, but I don't know. I'm completely out of my.
You broke it.
Oh, I do that.
I am
all
a
the time.
yes.
Wonderful. With 5 yeses, that has passed. And our final agenda item is just to confirm our next scheduled meeting. The Citizens Advisory Board is Wednesday, May 10th at 9:30 a.m. Any final comments or questions before we adjourn? All right, with that, I accept a motion to adjourn.
I'm a yes.
We adjourn. Thank you all.